Good morning, everyone, and welcome again to the finals of the National Tourism Debate. Before we begin our official start of the competition, we're going to ask Mr. Conrad Robinson. And as I said before, he is the manager of the Western Office of the JAMPRO. So Conrad Robinson will lead us into prayer. And we're asking everyone to go ahead.
Right. Thank you very much and good morning all. I trust that you can hear me well. As was mentioned, my name is Conrad Robinson and it is my pleasure to lead you into prayer this morning. Let us pray. This is the day that the Lord has made and we will rejoice and be glad in it. We thank you, Father, for this beautiful island, pearl of the Caribbean Sea. We thank you for its people, its most valued assets. We thank you for its natural beauty. We thank you, oh God, that out of these, we are able to have a tourism industry, enviable tourism industry. Giving rise to this debate competition this morning, I want to pray for the two schools who have made the finals, Jamaica College and Belair High School. We pray for the participants. We pray, oh God, that you will bless them indeed, and that you'll cause them, oh God, to give of their best and represent their schools well. We thank you, oh God, for the success of this event, and we place everything in your hands, even now, in Jesus' name. Amen.
And amen. Thank you, Mr. Robinson. And before we begin the official competition, we will have greetings and remarks. And our first greeting would be from Mrs. Nadine Spence, who is representing the JHTA. She is the chairman of the Montego Bay chapter. Can we spotlight Mrs. Spence? And Mrs. Spence, are you ready?
A pleasant good morning, everyone. I am Nadine Spence from the Jamaica Hotel and Tourist Association. I'm the area chair for the Montego Bay chapter. It is a pleasure and honor to bring greetings to you guys this morning on behalf of the Jamaica Hotel and Tourist Association. I know that you have been studying hard to get to this stage. Congratulations to you, Jamaica College and Belair High School. I know that whoever prevails this evening, this afternoon, or this morning rather, will feel like a true champion, but I'm sure your counterpart is a champion in of itself as well. So congratulations for making it to the finals. We in the industry is a supporter to this cause. We every year we ensure that we play our part, and we ensure that whenever the tourism debate, be it the pandemic or otherwise, that we give it the fullest of support needed. So congratulations for making it to this end. Right now, we are engaging all the institutions to ensure that the hospitality industry is highlighted and is one of the top areas that you will select for your future endeavors as it relates to your professionalism. The hospitality sector is one such, and especially the hotels, is a catalyst for you to just catapult wherever you want to go. There are many subsectors leading from this. I am in transportation, and there are others who are in craft, hospitality, accommodation, whatever it is that you deem fit that you want to be a part of. It's wide and open, and the pie is big enough for each and every individual. So I wish you all the best today in this match, and I know that the victor is the one who ought to come out on top this morning. So congratulations to you both, though, for making it here to the finals.
Thank you, Mrs. Spence. And as you have rightfully said, they are all winners, and we are happy that they were able to continue into the competition. We had some schools that did not see the competition through, and we had those that stuck to it. So thank you so much. And we thank the GHT for the sponsorship and support that they have given us over the years. Before we start the competition, we will also have remarks and greetings from the Minister of Tourism, Honorable Edmund Bartlett, another busy person, but he took his time out to do a video presentation to both schools on how well they have done. So I'm going to ask our production team, Mr. Jamie Drummond, to get us started. Thank you again.
Let me begin by congratulating Jamaica College and Belair High on reaching the finals of the 2021 National Tourism Debate Competition. This indeed must be an extremely proud moment for you. I'm sure you defeated some formidable rivals to get here. There's no better way to learn than through the exchange of ideas and the deepening of discourse. And competitions like this one that emphasize research, reasoning, and public speaking will significantly sharpen your young minds. I am particularly heartened that the focus of this debate competition is on tourism, which is a priority sector in Jamaica and our second largest foreign exchange earner. I'm also pleased that through this competition, our youth will learn the critical importance of this industry on which many thousands of Jamaicans rely for their livelihoods, both directly and indirectly. We like to refer to the tourism industry as Jamaica's bread and butter. This is because it recognizes and is responsible for 9.5% of the gross domestic product and contributed 50% of the foreign exchange earnings of the economy. And it generates 354,000 jobs, indirect, direct, and induced. The ongoing COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted tourism's critical importance to national development. The pandemic has taken a tremendous toll on lives and economies globally, and Jamaica has not gone unscathed. At its heights, closed borders, travel restrictions, and other containment measures cost Jamaica billions of dollars and thousands of jobs. Nevertheless, it has been proven time and again that tourism is a resilient industry that bounces back after times of crisis. We see this unfolding already, and our tourism sector continues to rebound nicely. We ended 2021 with an excellent showing of 1.6 million visitors and over $2 billion in earnings. Already for the year, we have seen approximately 300,000 stopover visitors, and for the first weekend in March, we again broke visitor arrival records with some 27,000 tourists arriving on the island. By the end of 2024, we are projected to surpass our pre-pandemic figures with total visitor arrival of 4.5 million and estimated earnings of 4.7 billion. Our recovery push is being guided by our Blue Ocean strategy, which will allow us to meet our growth targets of 5 million visitors, $5 billion in earnings, and 5,000 new rooms by 2025. We're no longer focusing on head-to-head competition and simply gaining market share. Instead, we are innovating to capture new demand with a diversified portfolio of authentic attractions and activities that draw heavily on Jamaica's natural and cultural assets. We aim to attract a diverse set of visitors who want a uniquely Jamaican experience, leverage local linkages for the supplies and tourism experiences, increase training to build the capacity of our people, and build a future that is even more resilient, safe, and sustainable. I hope that this journey to the National Tourism Debate Championships has opened your eyes to the importance and possibilities of tourism, and you will give it some thought as a viable career choice. The future of Jamaica's tourism industry is looking very bright, and you can be part of this success. New and exciting investors are set to spend close to $2 billion to add new rooms to Jamaica's tourism product over the next 2 years. And this will result in the addition of 7,000 new rooms and more than 20,000 new part-time and full-time jobs. As this vital sector continues to recover and grow, there will be a pressing need for a large pool of skilled professionals. That could be you. So I encourage you to consider a career in tourism. The industry needs more bright minds like yours. The Ministry of Tourism's training arm, the Jamaica Center of Tourism Innovation, JCTI, has been doing an excellent job of developing professionals in the sector through the certification of tourism workers, students, and recent graduates studying hospitality, tourism, or culinary arts. To date, JCTI has facilitated the certification of over 8,700 persons. In addition, through the 2-year Hospitality and Tourism Management Program, HTMP, high school students across the island are being prepared for gainful employment in the hospitality sector through comprehensive training involving internships, facility tours, and academic and practical tasks in the classroom and online. HTMP graduates receive the American Hotel and Lodging Education Institute certification, an associate degree in customer service, National Vacation Qualifications of Jamaica Level 4 certification, and Customer Service Industry Association recognition. They are future leaders who will one day help to raise Jamaica's tourism industry to the highest level of excellence in service delivery. I hope that you too will consider the JCTI in your career planning. In closing, I wish to commend Michelle Tullo, Executive Director of the Regional National Tourism Debate, for having the foresight to develop this worthwhile competition over a decade ago to give our youth a greater awareness of the value of tourism. Now, it is a national institution that has also caught the attention of the Jamaican diaspora across the world. You're doing, Michelle, an excellent job. And to the Jamaica College and Belair High teams, whatever the outcome, being here today at the National Tourism Debate Final makes you all winners. I wish you a robust and lively competition. Good luck, and God bless you.
And we'd like to thank Minister Bartlett for that presentation and some good information and statistics that's needed in our competition moving forward. We will have a short video presentation, and you can appreciate it's the finals, so program will be a little different. We will have a presentation from our production team, a short video from Jamaica College and Belair High on how they prepared for this competition during the pandemic.
Good evening, ladies. How are you doing?
Good evening.
Congratulations on making it into the semifinals. So I just want to ask you, how is it that you ladies prepare for a debate competition?
Okay. How I prepare for a debate competition is firstly, after receiving the mood, try to analyze it and get my own interpretation and understanding of it. And before I do any extensive research, I will watch previous matches just to get the comment of the judges and things I need to do to uplift and to execute properly, and then I will do some secondary or maybe primary research depending on the mood.
I do the same thing that she does. I watch the previous matches, see what the judges have to say about the other persons. I also discuss with my teammates and we'll discuss with our coach, and from there on we make a big decision.
So for me, I like to ask my classmates and my schoolmates what they think of the mood, how would they approach the mood, and how would they propose the mood and oppose it as well, because their opinions are really good.
All right. So, what are some of the challenges you experience as you prepare for a debate competition?
Some of the challenges I face is finding sources. Knowing in a debate match, you need to find very credible sources relating to a specific topic, and having to find sources is one of the most challenging parts of it. And also preparing mentally. Sometimes I have to give myself a little talk to say, okay, I can do this, and these are the challenges I face.
Also, yeah, again, just what she said. We have to prepare mentally, also juggling schoolwork and preparing for the debate. With the sources, some of them they're very outdated and they aren't credible. So that's a challenge that I face.
Yes, also for me is juggling schoolwork and debate, because the hours that I have to fit in my debate into my schedule. So I have to work with that limited time, and finding very credible, valuable information is sometimes very hectic, because there's a lot of information there, because we're talking about very recent topics. So there's a lot of information there, but are all of them credible and good enough to use?
All right. So, now that we're in the physical space, how do you feel about the preparation of the debate competition and just generally about being a part of the tourism debate competition now that you are in the physical space?
Being in the physical space, I was able to interact more with my teammates, and it made me confident being in front of others to give their opinion and their views of how I deliver. And I was able to correct myself, and they would see the faults. And being online wouldn't necessarily give me that feedback, so I was grateful for that.
Yeah, being in the physical space, we could interact more. When we they could share their views and their opinions, and it would help us to better our speech. It would also open our eyes to more things, I guess, because when we're in debate, we talk about topics that you wouldn't really look on, and we get a better view and a better understanding on some topics.
Being in the physical space has had a positive impact on me, because I get to really debate my speech, practice it, and work with my teachers and my coach and my teammates to perfect my speech and make it what it is. And this is a great experience, because if we were online, it would be a hassle to be having not seeing and not being physical with your teammates, and ideas kind of flow better, and it just flows better when you're in that physical space. So yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, ladies, and all the best.
Right, so gentlemen, how did you prepare for this debate?
Basically, I spend time reading my speech. Also, I like words that I can use to say either emphasis or expression. Also, I try to paraphrase when I can, meaning I get the main idea of the sentence, but don't read it out exactly as it is on the paper.
Well, what I did was I did a lot of research in the sense of trying to develop the points, as well as, well, when in the process of writing it, I tried to ensure that my points link to one another, as well as try to reference to my other speakers, and I spent a good amount of time doing research.
Well done, gentlemen. What are some of the challenges you faced while preparing for the debate?
Time, like for example, at some points my speech would over exceed the amount of time given, and when I fix it, it either goes too low or barely making it. So I have to consider time for points of information and other interruptions.
had a similar issue with time as well as the time spent doing the research, because right now we're doing internal exams. I have to try to balance my time in order to make sure I have the speech covered and the speech makes a lot of sense.
Okay, gentlemen. So now that you guys are going back face to face, what does that mean for debating for you guys?
Well, for me, it means that we can interact more with each other in a raw setting instead of saying, okay, this is a digital space, we have to be formal and stuff like that. So now someone might just give a little pointer from just how we give about our speech, like either our stance on it, if we need to add emphasis to our word and stuff like that. Just be more natural and authentic in person.
Well, I think it makes it easier for us to interact with each other, because sometimes you're probably at home and the background noises, so it's easier to work with because the coaches are right there, and if you think too hard, the coaches can say, hey, you close your eye too much, or you're reading from your paper too much, so it's easier to interact with the coach as well as my teammates.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
All right, thank you again, Danielle. Now, we always ask for Chief Judge, Attorney at Law Stacey Ann Young, to give us some brief. She guides us through the competition. Some of you who have been a part of the competition before would know this information Ms. Young is about to share, but for those visiting for the first time, Ms. Young will just brief you on the competition guide. And so we will spotlight our Chief Judge, Stacey Ann Young.
Thank you again. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Executive Director. Thank you to the technical team, and welcome guests and other judges. This morning, I will be judging along with Dr. Carey Wallace, who will be introduced by our technical director, and Mrs. Carrie-Ann Quaylo-Casserly. Well, as you know, we have been on this journey before. These two teams have been clearly the most outstanding team so far, and that is why they've made it to the finals. We anticipate a really, really riveting match, and I look forward to seeing the development of the teams having made it this far. I just want to go through the rules of the debate. This is a parliamentary style debate, and so you will have team government and team opposition. You will have the teams, the first two speakers, the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition, will have 7 minutes each for their presentation. The other members of government, 5 minutes, member of opposition, 5 minutes, and the third speakers will have 3 minutes each. There will also be an opportunity for rebuttals, and each team will have a rebuttal time of 3 minutes. So at the end of the third minute for the member of the opposition team will come again shortly after to do their rebuttal. However, during the debate, there are certain other rules that will come into play. No new arguments or responses may be outlined in your rebuttal. In addition to that, you will probably hear the teams say something like point of information or point of order. A point of information may rise during the debater's speech because they will ask a question. The team on the opposite side will ask a question. However, the other team does not have to answer the question. You may also hear a point of order raised. A point of order can be raised if one team has been going over the time or if a rule of the debate is broken. However, no points of information may be raised in the first or the last minute of the speeches. So you have to watch the monitors for the time signals that will be presented. In addition, we just wish to remind the speakers that you are going to be judged on analysis, definition, and interpretation, that's 15 points. Arguments advanced, that's 20 points. The accuracy of your arguments, that's 15 points. The organization of your presentation, that's 10 points. Your reasoning ability, that's 15 points. The style of your delivery, that's 10 points. Your voice, the way you elocute, 5 points. Your gestures, 5 points. And your stance, which is your positioning, another 5 points. I know that in the past, a lot of persons may not have paid a lot of attention to the rebuttal, but I'm reminding my finalists again, for the rebuttals, there is 100 marks to be gained, and it may mean the difference between winning and losing. In your rebuttal, there are 30 points for recognition of arguments made, 30 points for methodological demolition of arguments, 20 points for your style, 10 points for your voice, 5 for your gestures, and another 5 for your stance. So good luck, team, and we are ready to hear you. Let's go.
You, Chief Judge, and thanks for all your support. That was Attorney at Law Stacey Ann Young, who has been our Chief Judge for the last 2 years. So let us begin. We are at the finals, and this morning we will lead knowing who will be the winners of the 2021 national competition. 16 schools entered in late October 2021, leaving finalists Jamaica College and Belair High. Belair High, previous champions in 2019, and Jamaica College, our 2020 runner-up champions. This could not be possible without the kind sponsorship of our sponsors, to whom we are particularly grateful. The Tourism Enhancement Fund in the Ministry of Tourism, and representing TEF this morning, Dr. Kerry Wallace, Executive Director or Guest Judge. Deja All-Inclusive Resort, the Jamaica Hotel and Tourism Association, ProSight Optical, Royalton Luxury Resort, and we have representing Royalton Luxury Resort, Mrs. Carrie Ann Quayler Castle. Chocolate Caribbean, Intelligent Limited, Tony Ward's Auto, Camco Hotel and Restaurant Supplies. Here's the good part. Winners will receive sectional prizes from Chocolate Caribbean, Grace Kennedy, complimentary frames from ProSight Optical, cash prize and gift baskets from Fontana Pharmacy and Grace Kennedy. The winning coach, a weekend for two with the compliments of Royalton Resorts. You can have a thumbs up and feel free to cheer on. The 2021 National Tourism Debate is endorsed by the Ministry of Education, the Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce, and the JHTA. Our judges this morning, you would have met our Chief Judge, Stacey Ann Young, Attorney at Law, Dr. Kerry Wallace, Executive Director at the Tourism Enhancement Fund, and Mrs. Carrie Ann Quayler Castle, Regional Commercial Director, Blue Diamond Resorts, Royalton Luxury Resorts. Our moot for this morning, increasing port of calls for cruise ships will be an environmental hazard. Proposing the moot is Jamaica College, and opposing the moot is Belair High. Our speakers are Jamaica College, Mr. Tyreek Gregory, Mr. Jaheim Brown, and Mr. Leju Chong. The opposers, Belair High, Shanice Chambers, Saoirse Salmon, and Janoya Haynes. Can we have a round of applause for these speakers, please? They have been competing since October 2021. The first speaker is allowed 7 minutes, second speaker 5 minutes, and third speaker 3 minutes, followed by a rebuttal, which will begin with the opposing team. The match will begin with our proposing team, Jamaica College. We will now proceed with the grand finals of the 2021 National Tourism Debate, Jamaica College versus Belair High. We will now spotlight our first speaker of Jamaica College, and that would be Mr. Tyreek Gregory.
Good morning, Jenny.
We're hearing you, Mr. Gregory.
I can begin now?
Yes, you may proceed.
Okay. In 2021, the 26th United Nations Climate Change Conference was held in Europe due to the growing concern for the environment. This does imply that the environment is in a very fragile state. Good day, panel, opposition, and teammates. The motion that we strongly propose is that increasing ports of calls for cruise ships will be an environmental hazard. Mr. Speaker, let me cruise my way into this debate with these simple questions. Where will ports be built and what will be sacrificed? Now, to answer these questions, we have to look at this source. According to www.marineinsight.com, a port can be viewed as an harbor that is able to provide shelter for numerous boats and vessels transferring people or cargo near rivers or lakes, which leads into the second question's answer. To build ports, water bodies are sacrificed, which are vital for tourist reasons for wanting to travel here. Before I continue though, we have to understand the meaning of several of the terms mentioned in the motion. According to Merriam-Webster's dictionary, a port of call is an intermediate port where ships customarily stop for supplies, cargo, or repairs. Secondly, the natural environment is defined as, environmental hazards are defined as a substance or an event that has the potential to threaten the natural environment and affect the public. Also, increasing means to make greater in size or amount, according to Oxford Dictionary. Hence, we are proposing that increasing the amount of stopovers or the size of ports of calls that accept cruise ships will result in events that can potentially negatively affect the environment. Kingston Harbour encapsulates Jamaica's pollution problem was the title of an article released by JN General Insurance on May 10, 2019. The article mentioned environmental issues that Jamaica experiences at Kingston Harbours associated with the industrial and the domestic lifestyle of the people. They specifically stated that pollution also stems from this, which does show something that there's already a problem being experienced at our ports where the environment is concerned. And this did not even touch on the ship specifically. So imagine increasing ports of calls. This will result in more problems for a country that's already struggling where the environment is concerned. As the saying goes, want all, lose all. This is why we propose that increasing ports of calls will be an environmental hazard, which will affect the sustainability of the environment and tourism, which is heavily impacted based off the state of the environment. To support this motion, we'll be looking at the challenges to sustainability in light of geosocial, water quality, aquatic life, and air pollution hazards that increasing ports of calls for cruise ships will have. Our second speaker will highlight the effects of increased stopovers that it will have on water and air quality. The final speaker will then further prove how ports of calls and cruise ships can negatively affect the environment with the use of examples and statistics. Many would think that increasing ports of calls will increase the numbers of tourists. This is not a wrong assumption, but due to the focus being on the environmental hazards of ports of calls, we have to consider it as an issue of sustainability for the environment and how it relates back to tourism. In increasing ports of calls, whether in the numbers of stoppages or the location size, this will increase the rate of environmental hazards. This basically would be killing the environment due to decreasing sustainability over time. Examples of this can be seen with beaches shorelines decreasing due to the loss of coral reefs. This is an environmental source that has a main reason and role for traveling due to its linkage to food and recreation, which will be affected and hence tourists losing interest. So sustainability of the environment is needed for sustainability of tourism. Environmentalists say that ports lead to coral damages and towns are now at flood risk. According to an article entitled "Another Controversy Hits Falmouth Port," released by Jamaica Observer on January 16, 2011, stated that green lobbyists are insisting that 20 hectares of corals and seagrass covers have been damaged due to development. Let me repeat, 20 hectares, or in mundane terms now, 37 football fields. That's absurd. This level of damage to aquatic life for an already existing port. So let's imagine the damage for a bigger size port. Quarries are very important for water and air quality, which my second speaker will further expound upon. In essence, there will be a ripple effect on many other environmental aspects, which does show that increasing ports of call does have environmental effects. Now, Mr. Speaker, let us discuss how increasing ports of calls for cruise ships will cause environmental hazards from a geosocial perspective. Living near a body of water was essential in the 16th to 19th centuries,
But due to the construction to make ports, many persons had to relocate. This resulted in social disruption due to many marine link businesses being disrupted. Tourism academic Joshua argues, after conducting studies across 50 cruise ships, that, and I quote, the cruise ship industry has had a profound social cultural impact. These impacts include overcrowding and congestion, noise pollution, homogenization of port experiences, crime and harassment, and the loss of social cultural authenticity, traditional cultural heritage, and behavior. End of quote. To facilitate more stopovers on other ports, the ports would also have to undergo further construction, which will damage the land and the geosocial environment for the people. Now, ports, of course, can be considered as a venture that can boost tourism, but is not sustainable due to Jamaica's problems with environmental hazards. Hence, increasing the number of cruise ship stoppages and size of cruise ships available would definitely result in environmental hazards due to its many implications. These points will be further expounded upon, but for now, we rest our case. Thank you.
And we thank you. That was Tyreek, very first speaker, Jamaica College. We will now move over to Belair High. Can we spotlight Belair High, who is joining us from Mandeville? So we have one team from Mandeville, the other from Kingston. First speaker, Shanice Chambers. Ms. Chambers, you can go ahead.
Are you hearing me clearly?
Yes, we are.
Okay, I will begin.
Yes, we are.
Judges, audience, opponents, good morning. Today we rise to oppose the moot. Increasing port of calls for cruise ships will be an environmental hazard. Judges, we believe this is a necessary risk. Proposition, we hear you and we understand you, but what you must know is the rewards outweighs whatever possible hazards you just presented. Truth is, if we focus on just the bad, then we will only see bad. But if we focus on the good or a balancing of both, then we can reap the best rewards. And we have some good to share this morning. As for speaker, I will talk about the economic, social, and environmental benefits of increasing port of calls. My second speaker will share several proactive efforts and encourage environmental management improvements within the shipping industry and on the Galapagos and Fiji Islands. And my third speaker will seal our stance by discussing some dangers which cause more hazard to the environment and does not provide an earning capacity, and what ships are doing to be environmentally friendly. Before I get into my substantive, let me define the key terms of the motion. Increasing, according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, means to become progressively greater in number or intensity. Wordsinner.com defines port of calls as where a ship anchors and crew are allowed to leave the ship to visit the port. Cruise ships, according to yourdictionary.com, is a passenger ship used for pleasure cruises, which with occasional calls in various places of interest. Environmental hazards are defined as extreme events or substances in the earth and its ecological system that may cause adverse consequences for humans and things they value. The motion restated can be allowing more places where passenger ships built for pleasure cruise to anchor will cause adverse consequences to the earth and its ecological system for humans and the things they value. Judges, economically, the country generates millions of dollars from port of calls. The Jamaica Observer dated March 7, 2019, titled Jamaica's Cruise Tourism Earns $22.6 billion, reveals just a fraction of the economic gains through this industry. In 2008, the sector earned $7.5 billion, and in 2017, cruise saw earnings of $22.6 billion. Benefits from cruise tourism positively affect a wide range of small and medium-sized tourism enterprises, as well as local service providers, including contract carriage operators, travel vendors, artisans, food and beverage producers, local community groups, DJs, and entertainers. Since the last 2 decades, the Caribbean region has been one of the most favored cruise destinations. It accounts for more than 35%, 35.4 to be exact, of the global deployment capacity market share. Judges, money is needed, and tourism is one of Jamaica's greatest revenue earning hub. Thus, it means we should do all we can to ensure we tap into this resource for economic gains. Proposition, socially, when we think about how this investment benefits, we think of the most impoverished people in the country who earn an income from this sector. When we fail to provide opportunities through work, these individuals will ultimately contribute to the degradation of the environment. Opponents, you say more ports mean more hazard, but let me tell you this. No jobs will significantly contribute to the degradation of the environment. We will not be able to control the unemployed moving to engage in practices to sustain their living. A study by Teams to End Poverty, titled Environment and Poverty, reveals that, and I quote, poverty leads to deforestation through inappropriate use of wood and other resources for cooking, heating, housing, and crafts, thus depriving vulnerable groups from essential goods and accelerating both the downward spirals of poverty and environmental degradation. No economic wealth means that poor people will engage in practices for survival, end quote. Environmental, there will be greater awareness to the environment. How, you may ask? In order for ships to be sustainable, the tourists they carry are appealed to by the attractiveness of the environment. This is an incentive for cruise liners to ensure they do all they can to preserve this attractiveness to sustain the interest of the visitors they carry. Stain Anasterio 2020 asserts, and I quote, such pressure motivates and stimulates ports not to merely focus on economic generation, but also to include resilient, sustainable strategies. Ports are required to balance commercial and economic growth against environmental and social sustainability, end quote. Cruise ships are not in the business of destroying the environment. Quite counterproductive, right? Yes, cruise ships are in the business of saving the environment, as this is their business. It is disingenuous of the proposition to present otherwise. My third speaker will speak more on how cruise ships are becoming green. Our opponents this morning would have you to believe that such a move would be without proper planning and procedures as we seek to increase ports of calls. But we would have you to know that Encyclopedia of Toxicology 3rd edition 2014 shares that an environmental risk assessment is an assessment that assesses the likelihood of a business or venture causing harm to the environment. This includes describing potential hazards and impacts and taking precautions to reduce the risk. No such activity as having more ports of calls can ever happen without an ERA being done. Charnel Henry, in her article titled Knowledge of Marine Assets, Key to Sustainable Exploitation of Blue Economy, reveals Agriculture and Fisheries Minister, Honorable Colonel Charles Jr., stating that, and I quote, knowledge of the assets within Jamaica's marine space is key in enabling the country to sustainably tap into the blue economy while protecting the marine ecosystem. We have a massive marine space, which is primarily untapped and needs to be protected, identifying the best way to exploit it and putting in place systems and policies that safeguard what we need to keep in a protected zone, end quote. Environmental hazard, they say, but we say, as the minister said, bringing awareness to the environment and becoming more equipped to exploit, manage, and preserve it. We say economic benefits, environmental benefits, social benefits, 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 benefits. The opposition pauses.
And two very strong speakers, both from Jamaica College and Belair High. We will now give our judges some time to deliberate as we prepare for our second speaker, Jaheim Brown from Jamaica College, who is proposing the motion. A reminder of our moot this morning: increasing port of calls for cruise ships will be an environmental hazard. We would like to congratulate Shireen Bennett, the coach for Jamaica College, and Coach Janice Allen from Belair High. Can we spotlight Jamaica College, please?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we are. You may go ahead, Mr. Brown.
Good morning to the judges and my opponents. Port of calls are said to be intermediate ports where ships customarily stop for supplies, repair, or fuel. Our moot states increasing port of calls for cruise ships will be an environmental hazard, and we, the government, absolutely agree with this. And here's why. Port of calls for cruise ships pose a hazard to water quality, climate adaptation, and provide speeds up air pollution. Excuse me. We must remember to maintain sustainability in all acts of tourism. Sure, if port of calls increase, the number of tourists will increase, but is it truly worth introducing the risk to the environment in the medium to long term? Is it better to facilitate more tourists and earn more, but eventually use all that money or all those rewards earned, or even more than what is earned, to rectify the damage caused to the environment? Let us take coral reefs, for example. Is it better to get more cruise ships due to increased port of calls, but lose our coral reefs? The same coral reefs that protect our coastlines from storms and prevent the sea from stealing our shores. The same reefs that provide and maintain biodiversity. The same coral reefs that reduce the mighty power and force of waves hitting the coast. Coral reefs act as natural purifiers and defenders for water bodies, and also provide habitats for many, and understated many, sea plants and animals. Our opponents might argue that port of calls might be away from coral reefs. However, it must be stated that indirect acts of toxin leakage or oil spills are on the table and can still harm coral reefs even miles away. Such harm will lead to the gradual depletion of aquatic life, which can lead to reduction in produce in the fishery industry, as my first speaker indicated. The potential scenes of mercury-covered water with clumps of dead fish floating on the surface and the horrendous scent under the blazing sun. Increasing port of calls introduces an environmental hazard on the basis of death of marine life, and this has great potential to extend entirely into an environmental disaster. You might recall, in 2019, in our very own local space, the Jamaica Environment Trust was in protest against a Port Royal cruise ship project as it posed the threat of destroying the mangrove area, which was the last remaining stand of the old red mangrove on the shoreline. Yet, the port was constructed disregarding the fragile ecosystem that existed in the area. Just as my opponents, we need to recognize that we introduced a port at a legendary site, forgetting the already existing hazards and extending them. Visualize the year 2017. We no longer see the benefits of increased port of calls because the sites are covered underwater due to rising sea level. The rise as a result of global warming, which is significantly influenced by cruise ship movement near countries, or think to the fact that tourism will become extinct. As what will the tourists be coming to see? Where would they that? And how would locals benefit if there's no more industry? Think about your grandchildren or even great-grandchildren having to avoid the beaches because water is uninhabitable and toxic to human skin. So we observe that increasing port of calls will introduce environmental hazards or make a bad situation worse. Another reason is the ports rely on a wide range of vehicles with diesel engines, which are a source of greenhouse gas emissions, hence a contributor to air pollution. They release pollutants including particulate matter, nitrogenous oxide, sulfur oxide, among other air toxins. These pollutants harm the air by attacking the ozone and helping in heat retention. The ozone can then affect vegetation, adversely impacting the growth of plants and trees. These impacts then reduce the ability of plants to uptake carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, which indirectly affects ecosystems. Environmental organizations in the UK have estimated that a cruise ship generates pollution equivalent to 700 trucks. Generates pollution equivalent to 700 trucks. Furthermore, the International Maritime Organization found cruise ships cause 2.7% of global carbon dioxide emissions. So how will cruise ships save the environment if this is what is happening? So we can see where if we increase port of calls, we intensify environmental risks. And I hope you do too. We rest for now.
strong points by both teams. We will now move over to Belair High, who's joining us from Mandeville, and we welcome our friends on YouTube. We are streaming live. This is the National Tourism Debate Finals. We have with us Ms. Starsha Salmon. Ms. Salmon, you may go ahead.
Thank you. Proposition. Are you suggesting that we completely stop port of calls? Judges, opponents, audience, good morning. I stand to further refute the moot that increasing port of calls for cruise ships will be an environmental hazard. We believe sustainability of the environment is not by stopping or even settling for the number of cruise ports we currently have. It is as a result of making optimal use of environmental resources that constitutes a key element in tourism development, maintaining essential ecological processes, and helping to conserve natural heritage and biodiversity. Judges, the Sea Trade Insider in 2010 made it absolutely clear that whilst shipping is relatively safe and clean compared with other transport modes, the industry does have a significant impact on the environment. However, within the last few decades, several proactive efforts to encourage environmental management improvement within the ship industry were successfully implemented. Here are some of these proactive efforts. First, we have the research and innovation. These are initiatives with aim to reduce and eliminate harmful environmental emission. It includes investment in research aims to develop new technology designed for safer and more suitable ships. R&I initiatives are applied in many ships in order to reduce their negative environmental.
Point of information.
Not accepted. Corporate social responsibility and marketing. Companies integrate social and environmental concerns in their business operations and in their interaction with their stakeholders on a voluntary basis. Thirdly, awareness, rising, and environmental education initiatives. These aims are encouraging environmental management improvements across the sector. And finally, green technology, which my third speaker will speak to. Proposition. With these proactive approaches, the industry is indeed on the path to achieve sustainability. Judges, Jamaica is not unique in its desire to increase port of call and with concern about protecting its fragile ecosystem. An article on Condé Nast Travel site titled "The Cruise Ship That Could Preserve the Galapagos Islands" by Mary Halland reveals that the Galapagos Islands in Ecuador has one of the most unique and fragile environments, which would definitely be impacted by cruise ship tourism. However, Fernando Diaz, marketing director of Quasar Expedition, says tourism is the main source of funding and preservation for the national park, and without preservation, the park wouldn't be protected. Through preservation, the organization can minimize its impact on the marine ecosystem. He further states that we work with Charles Darwin Foundation, which conducts research, scientific research, and promotes environmental education. Yes, cruise tourism can have a negative impact, but without it, the island would not be preserved the way they are. Ms. Shanika Powell Morgan, Head Officer Coordinator of Program Abroad, states that volunteers who wish to assist with conservation efforts in Fiji have to fly thousands of miles to do so, resulting in substantial carbon emission. Some may say this gesture of volunteerism is counterproductive for the environment. However, volunteers are engaged in replanting mangroves to counter the carbon footprints. This way, an obvious hazard is countered to the benefit of both the environment and the economy. The Galapagos Islanders and the Fijians see the benefit of the environment and the country's economy and know it is a necessary risk that can be countered. Proposition. To further help with regulations, there are agencies and projects that constantly help to protect and sustain environment. These are the National Environmental and Planning Agency, the Maritime Authority of Jamaica, that has signed the international treaty that governs safety, pollution prevention, and implement them. The International Maritime Organization, which is the United States specialized agent with responsibility for the safety and prevention of marine and atmospheric pollution by ships worldwide. The National Resource Conservation Authority and Jamaica Ridge to watershed project is in Pacific Small Island Development States to improve the quality of key natural resources that are both environmental and economically significant. Judges, in the case of the Farmer Pier in Trelawney, which started operations in 2011, the environmental impact assessment for the expansion program reveals that liaisons between the different parties around the coral relocation. Hydronomic also assist with installation of silt screens to ensure environmental compliance with the standard establishment by the National Environmental Protection Agency. Public consultation on EIAs are a precursor to planning approvals. Judges, we cannot just sit and focus on the hazard and not tap into this blue economy and decide how we mitigate against possible dangers with all that is available to us today. To do so, we believe the rewards for increasing port of call will guarantee sustainability for the environment. The proposition pauses.
We will give our judges some time to deliberate and welcome our friends joining us from Barbados this morning. Can we have a spotlight on Jamaica College? We will now invite Mr. Lejo Chung to the podium. Mr. Chung is the third speaker of the proposition team.
Morning, can you hear me?
Yes, we are.
May I begin?
Yes, you may go ahead, Mr. Chung.
Good day, teammates, judges, and notable opponents. Let me just outline the moot. Increasing port of calls for cruise ships will be an environmental hazard. First of all, let me ask you this. Do you know how much pollution is caused by ships and ports? Let me enlighten you in case you missed the information presented by my first and second speaker. On average, ships contribute to 20% of global pollution of land, sea, and air. Around the world, one of the main causes of pollution is in fact those ships. Ships periodically release sewage, wastewater, and bilge water, according to greencare.com. Increasing port of calls would increase the number of cruise ships and cause more humans to interact with the water bodies and hence increase the risk of environmental hazards. In Jamaica, our beaches are essential to our tourism sector, but with the help of these wastes like oil, sewage, and other harmful chemicals, it will cause us to lose these essentials in the long run. Think about your great-grandchildren in the future, unable to have their fun at the beach due to the previous pollution by the ships. With the terrifying water pollution inbound, it will bring in various types of waterborne diseases and illnesses. For example, cholera, hepatitis A, E. coli, and typhoid fever. Dirty water and tourists do not mix. Added ships and ports may have a positive effect, but nevertheless, marine transportation still generates too many negative impacts on the marine environment, including air pollution and greenhouse gas emissions. Therefore, the number of ports of calls must be obstructed by the consideration for the environment. At some point, we will see a negative return on the investment. Right now in France, according to an article from Forbes.com, more than 10% of their pollution comes from ships. Meanwhile, in the United Kingdom, local environment groups have demonstrated that a single cruise ship can emit as much particulate matter as 1 million cars. 1 million cars! Ladies and gentlemen, it has been estimated that between 40,000 and 100,000 Britons die prematurely every year as a result of these emissions from the shipping and cruise industry, with major port cities such as Southampton, Grimsby, and Liverpool particularly affected. Our means of transportation for visitors shouldn't continue to be air and sea travel. While both emit pollution into the atmosphere, cruise ships are far worse. Every passenger and every mile, a cruise ship emits almost double the carbon dioxide. Another article from marineinsight.com states that these luxury vessels can produce 7 tons of garbage and solid waste in a day. While it's a thriving industry, we have been pushing the concern for sustainability. Too much of one thing is never good. Let us not become dazzled by the promises of financial gain in the short term or forget the impact of the destruction of the environment on the industry, the wider society and economy in the long term. We now rest our case.
Thank you, Mr. Chong. We will move over to the third speaker, Belair High, Janoy Haynes. We have Jamaica College from Kingston and Belair High from Mandeville. Janoy Haynes, Ms. Haynes, you can go ahead.
Again, we hear your proposition, but we want to take the comprehensive approach to guarantee benefits, not just in one area, but in all areas economically, environmentally, and socially. Judges, opponents, audience, good morning. I stand to further refute the move. Increasing port of calls for cruise ships will be an environmental hazard. My first speaker spoke to the economic, social, and environmental benefits of increasing calls. My second speaker spoke to several proactive efforts that encourage environmental management and improvements within the shipping industry and on the Galapagos and Fiji Islands. And I will seal our stance by discussing some dangers which cause more hazard to the environment and does not provide an earning capacity. Also, what cruise ships are doing to be environmentally sustainable. Judges, there are so many other things that destroy our environment much more than cruise lines, which do not even provide any economic benefits. Things such as land pollution to the Kingston Harbor, building of hotels, which destroys mangroves and the coastline, quarrying dust that kills corals, climate change, and bad fishing practices. When we take the comprehensive approach of increasing ports of calls while basking in the many benefits of this resource, we're economically in a position to heal the other hazards that have no earning capacity. Judges,
information
that at this moment, that operate cruise lines are increasingly becoming more environmentally conscious and protective of the environment. They're utilizing innovative technologies and designs that integrate ecological dynamics to substitute conventional engineering. Green cruising is such a beautiful oxymoron. Cruise critic Alyssa Garay shares that.
Point of information.
Not at this moment, continue to make important strides to improve their environmental policies. Green technologies are being incorporated into newly built ships and are sometimes retrofitted onto older ones. Solar panels exhaust scrubber systems that help minimize emissions, cooking oil conversion systems, and energy efficient appliances. Some cruise lines also collaborate with non-profit organizations and government agencies to collect data about the ocean's health and climate changes. CruiseCritic.org, under the heading Green Cruising, highlights what some major cruise liners are doing to ensure they are preserving the environment. Carnival Cruise Line recycles, incinerates, and unloads a wide variety of commodities from its ships for land disposal. They commit to decarbonization by supporting the transition to alternative fuels and technologies. Costa crew members get training aimed at improving awareness of the possible environmental effects. Technologically advanced equipment treats and processes 100% of all onboard solid waste. Food waste is composted. The Disney Cruise Line intends to minimize the amount of plastic shopping bags by providing guests with the option of purchasing reusable bags as well as removing polyester cups. They process more than 1,900 tons of metal, glass, plastic, and paper for recycling or reuse since 2014. Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines has improved significantly its environmental performance. The cruise line is currently using dynamic positioner on its two vessels, which is a new alternative for anchors. We believe increasing ports of calls will continue to turn the wheels to better preserve and protect this environment. Increasing means increased revenues, increased protection of the environment, increase a better way of life for our most impoverished, increase demand for Jamaica's tourism products. Hazard you say proposition, we say benefits, benefits, benefits. The opposition rests.
And let's have a round of applause. The speakers this afternoon will now prepare their rebuttals. The judges will deliberate and we will take a short break.
Feel the pulse, feel the vibe, feel it in your heart.
Sunshine smiling warm up inside your heart. Feeling of pure love. Oh, Jamaican heartbeat. Dancing to the beat up inside your heart. Heartbeat of the world. Oh, Jamaican heartbeat. Jamaican heartbeat.
Jamaica.
Can you feel it? Jamaican heartbeat.
Love it.
Heartbeat of the world. Beyond compare. Nothing like it anywhere. Share, eat and drink. We move and dance with you. No matter where you are. No matter where you're from. Join in the party. You're welcome. You're welcome.
So me say greetings, welcome to one and all, to the land of scat, reggae and dancehall. Here we go beach, river and waterfall, and we have a lot of party when the night fall. Hold a vibe, eat something with a drink in your hand. Rum beer, jerk chicken, roast fish, yellow yam. Them say we beat unique, so every boy, every girl come to Jamaica, the heartbeat of the world.
Jamaican heartbeat.
Jamaica.
Can you feel it? Jamaican heartbeat. Heartbeat of the world.
Okay, we will now take rebuttals. Can I be Mr. Haney? Can you start my video, please? And thank you. Welcome back. We are closer to finding out who will be the national champions. And we just want to remind our audience that the National Tourism Debate is endorsed by the Jamaica Hotel and Tourism Association, the Ministry of Education, and the Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce. We have a newcomer, the Jamaica Tourist Board, and they will also be providing gift packages to our first and second place winners. We will now begin our rebuttal, and we will start with our opposing team. Belair High, are you ready? Yes?
Yes.
All right, so we have Belair High, the opposers, and this is Ms. Shanice Chambers, first speaker from Belair High School. You may go ahead with your rebuttal.
I will begin. Judges, the opposition stands resolute in refuting the moot. Increasing port of calls for cruise ships will be an environmental hazard. It is disingenuous for the proposition to assert that port of calls and cruise lines are not in the business of environmental sustainability. The first speaker said that there is already a problem with cruise ships affecting the environment. But you seem to have missed our third speaker when she spoke about the number of ships that are going green, recycling, waste management, and more efficient ways. He also mentioned that we want all or lose all, but we don't want all. What we're putting forward is that we should take necessary risk to mitigate. We should take necessary risk to mitigate whatever hazards are happening in order to allow benefits for other areas. You spoke about environmental hazard, but we outlined the proactive approach and agencies that have been and will be implementing regulations to mitigate possible dangers. What is the alternative proposition to fill this gap if we don't move forward to increase port of calls, which generates so much revenue? Where is the alternative? The second speaker went on and on about cruise ships contributing to pollution and the level of carbon dioxide emission. Once again, my third speaker mentioned that there are green technologies putting in place, and for all ships, there are ones that are going to be added to ensure that these hazards are mitigated. Your third speaker mentioned that cruise can produce tons of waste. But what are they doing now? What is the can for? What are they doing now? There are mitigation strategies that are engaged to counter their carbon footprint, as my second speaker said. Proposition. Let us not focus on what was or what existed. Let us focus on what is as we grow towards the future, and to use this to make future decisions so that we can grow economically, socially, environmentally. We are thinking about the comprehensive approach. Judges, we continue to say increasing port of calls is a necessary risk with rewards that outweighs whatever possible hazards there might be. Everything the proposition presented has presented hazards and have presented mitigation strategies which will be utilized or is already in place of utilization by port operators and cruise lines. With increased port of calls, there is increased regulation, increased protection, increased benefits, whether it be socially, economically, and environmentally. Let us weigh the balance now, audience. Let us weigh the balance and see the big picture. Now you decide the scale, how the scale tips. Is it benefits or hazards? The opposition rests.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so can I start now?
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you so very much. Now, thank you. You finally understand what sustainability means. Thank you for adding to our claim. Now, the first speaker mentioned that the reward outweigh the risk. Are you crazy to think that? No, you would think that's the case, but we're talking about sustainability. As you mentioned, the future. Sustainability is the future. Hence why you will probably thinking from the point that more ships equal more tourism. But in reality, that equals to more environmental hazard, which depletes sustainability, which depletes what attracts tourists to come here. You also mentioned removing or moving of quarries to different areas. That's a bad move to make. Quarries are very delicate, hence why they don't even want people to interact with them. Hence, we suggest instead having a coral nursery, which we can use the funds that would take to increase port of call, so actually put into fixing the damage that is already here. Secondly, you also mentioned economically that this would be very rewarding. Look at all the other aspects of tourism that we have. Gastronomic tourism, which makes up 1/10 of the global tourism market. We also have sports tourism, etc. Now, we have to really think about this carefully. You also went into the social aspects of things, but really and truly, you're saying that we're being aware of it. As my second speaker mentioned, they gave warnings, different companies and policies gave warnings against doing certain stuff. We still went on and do that. Hence, we are not taking the warnings. So as much as awareness is a thing, it doesn't matter if we do not act on it. Now, you also mentioned, the third speaker also mentioned mitigating. But really and truly, mitigating can only do so much. For example, do you know that China is the world's leading country when it comes down to green technology? But China also causes 28% of carbon emission in the atmosphere and other gases. Doesn't that sound crazy? A big country like China mitigating a problem and still adding to it at the same time? What will our small developing country do as much as we're growing? By the time we solve this problem, sustainability will be long gone. As my friend mentioned, 2070, there will be no beaches for anything to take place. You also mentioned that hotels aren't making much money for tourism, but really and truly they are, which is kind of an absurd statement to make, because also, as mentioned before, the funds that it would take to actually put into increasing port of calls and actually maintaining them will be pulling from other tourism facets, which means that in the long run, you'll be not making as much profit as you would want to. Now, we have to look at longevity of our investments. We can't invest in something that will not be there in the next few years. Do you know that our coastlines are decreasing over time? And this is only getting worse with each year to come. So if we ignore the fact, as much as there's improvements being made with cruise ships, if we ignore the fact that pollution is taking place already, then we'll be speeding up this process and sustainability will definitely not be achieved. most eco-friendly countries in the world are based in Europe, the European Union countries, right? And these countries can do this because they have a lot of government benefits. They also have a strong GDP growth rate. They also have a lot of open markets that are actually growing. Jamaica will be there soon, but will not be there in time. And we should actually take our steps back from increasing ports of call and actually sustain what we have and work on fixing what we already have there. Hence why I think we're the clear victors in this match. Thank you very much.
We are in good hands indeed, these future leaders of our country and tourism sector. We will now give our judges some time to deliberate and congratulate both schools on doing such an excellent job and staying within the competition. Before I invite our Chief Judge to make the announcement, we would like to thank our sponsors, the Tourism Enhancement Fund, Deja All-Inclusive Resort, the Jamaica Hotel and Tourism Association, ProSight Optical, Royalton Luxury Resort, Chucka Caribbean, Intelligent Limited, Tony Ward's Auto, Camco Hotel and Restaurant Supplies. Our teams will win prizes from Chucka Caribbean, gift baskets from Grace Kennedy and Fontana Pharmacy, as well as the Jamaica Tourist Board, frames from ProSight Optical, cash prize, and we will also have a weekend or two to the winning coach at the Royalton Resorts. The judges this afternoon, Chief Judge Attorney at Law Stacey Ann Young, Executive Director at the Tourism Enhancement Fund in the Ministry of Tourism, and Stacey Ann Quayla Castley, Regional Commercial Director, Blue Diamond Resorts, Royalton Luxury Resorts. The moot was increasing port of calls for cruise ships will be an environmental hazard. I will now invite our Chief Judge, Stacey Ann Young, Attorney at Law, to make the announcement. Madam Chief Judge.
This was indeed one of the most, if not the most exciting, riveting match for the season, and it was very, very fitting. And for all the members of the audience and the coaches, you can see why these two teams are the finalists this year. The arguments were organized, the introductions were great on both sides. You've seen improvements. I remember earlier in the season, I had to repeat on several occasions about ensuring that they include definitions, making eye contact, and I can see where all of the comments that the judges made earlier in the season, that they were taken on board, because both teams were, they displayed, I believed, a very high level of professionalism. You could see their presentations was very, very high caliber. And in the end, it was a little difficult for us to really say, who was the best speaker. But, because this is a competition, we have to come out with a decision. So I would really want us to just take a moment and congratulate both teams for a really, really exciting match. So just a round of applause for both teams again. All right, so what the judges did, the judges have decided on who they believe the best team was, but I'm just gonna take you guys through the presentations and just to give you some of the comments that the judges made. So we had the proposals, Jamaica College. Master Tyree Gregory, as usual, he is an extremely good speaker. He started off with a very strong introduction, and he outlined his definitions of the main terms like ports, cruise ships, and what he believed environmental hazards were. His introduction, as I said, was very strong, his definitions good, and he used his articles to ensure that he provided the basis for the information that he was providing us. He said the Kingston Harbor was the main cause of environmental issues that we're facing in Jamaica today, and that a lot of pollution stems from this port. He says our country is already struggling with the pollution and that the sustainability of the environment is necessary to sustain the tourism sector. He made reference to the Falmouth Pier and he spoke of the 20 hectares of coral reefs that have been damaged. And he then alluded to that being equivalent to 37 football fields. So he was making it very, very vivid for us to understand the extent of the environmental pollution or hazard that he's saying that the cruise ships would make. And he then said that the ripple effect on other areas was significant as well. And he then went into the geosocial aspects, like the social disruption of the other marine-based industries, noise pollution, crime and harassment. And then he said, you know, we would then have to undergo further construction that would cause another set of damage to the land and cause other geosocial disruptions. So very good presentation, straight out of the wicket, straight out of the wicket for Jamaica College. And then we had Miss Shanice Chambers, who came in just as strong with an excellent introduction. She had good eye contact. And she then says, listen, if we focus on the bad, we will only see the bad. And then she sought to turn her attention to the positive aspects of the cruise ship and increase in the ports. She said, she properly outlined her speech and that of the speech of her teammates. So she outlined at the beginning what she would be dealing with and what her other teammates would be dealing with. She had very good definitions. She spoke about the terms, similar terms, but she changed the definition to suit the argument she was presenting to some extent. She spoke about increase being progressively greater in intensity. She outlined what her meaning for cruise ship was and environmental hazard, and then she restated the mood. She said that the consideration we should take was to focus on the economics of it and the great economic gains. And she then presented her statistics. She said that we need money and that tourism is the main earning hub, and that if we think of the benefits, then we would see where this would be a very big avenue to improve employment. She says that if we do not increase employment, we will have more poverty. Poverty would lead to things like deforestation and domestic damage of the environment. So she was saying 6 of one, half dozen of the other, but we can find a way to capitalize on this. She then says the cruise ships are not in the business of damaging the environment and that the environmental risk assessment can deal with the potential hazards and give solutions. So her arguments as well were extremely strong. So she created a counter argument, a very strong counter argument to what we were presented. So at this point, everybody's like, whoa, there's really two sides to this, and we really need to look at both arguments. Then we had our second speaker, a very strong speaker from Jamaica College, Master Jaheim Brown. And he said the risk to the environment in the medium to long term is too great. He says that we will lose our coral reefs and that the coral reefs are what protects our shorelines and provide habitats for many marine life. He said that the indirect harm would lead to the production, a drop in the production of sea life, and there will be hazardous waste and the death of many marine life. And he then says this would be a real environmental disaster. He said that he gave examples of the issue with Port Royal and the rising sea level. He had great stance, and then he said that if we do not prevent what is being introduced into our environment, then what a bad situation would be worse. And he then substantiated his arguments by giving scientific reasoning about the effects on the ozone of the environment. And he stated that cruise ship costs 2.17% of all global carbon dioxide emission. And he then says that if we do this, increasing the ports would just be a very big disaster in increasing environmental hazards. Then we had Ms. Saoirse Salmon, and she came in very strongly outlining her tasks. She made optimal use of resources. She conceded that the effects of the ships on the environment, but she listed very proactive efforts. She spoke about new technology for safer ships. She says there will be a negative impact, but it's a necessary evil. And she then gave a substantial explanation about the carbon emissions. And she was saying that there are volunteers who plant mangroves to counter the effects. She then gave us a long list of agencies and projects that were constantly addressing whatever issues were coming up, and she outlined these agencies, including NEPA. She gave corrective work that was being done at the farm of care, and she was saying you cannot sit in despair because of the hazards, and then she encouraged us to consider the economic benefits and the avenues available to really, counteract whatever damage. We then had Master Lejo Shang, and he restated the mood, summarized the stats presented by his first and second speaker, and he tried to bring us back to what this mood was really about. He said ships released wastewater and increased the risk of environmental damage to beaches because of the pollution, and he encouraged us to consider the next generation. What about our children? What will happen to them? He highlighted waterborne diseases, dirty water and tourists don't mix, he said. Air pollution, greenhouse gas emission, and he said at some point there will be a negative return on the investment. He then took us to the fact that a single cruise ship can emit as much pollution as 1 million cars, and he then gave us the examples of the UK cities that had a high death rate and the doubling of the carbon dioxide. He then says 7 tons of garbage and solid waste can be emitted from 1 cruise ship in a day. We then had our third speaker, Ms. Janoya Haynes, and with her very calm and strong voice, she then said, listen, I don't know what they're talking about, have you heard about green cruising? And she then took us to the Carnival Cruise Lines, the Disney Cruise Line, the Royal Caribbean examples, where she was saying, we've moved away from the old type of cruising. We now have alternate cruise lines using alternative fuels. We now have staff being trained to treat the waste on board the vessel. We now have the cruise lines being actively utilizing reusable bags, and she then gave examples. And then she brought us back to the main thrust of her team's reasoning, which is the increased revenue, the protection of their way of life, and the fact that we cannot just focus on what seems to be a negative thing. And the judges felt very strongly about commending both teams. And they found that the confidence and preparation of one particular team was better than the other. And so I will take you through the scoring. We the judges were unanimous in agreeing that the best speaker for this competition was Miss Shanice Chambers of the Belair team. So can we just get a round of applause, please, for Miss Chambers? Her confidence stood out for us, and she was thought to be the best speaker by all 3 judges. Her rebuttal was also thought to be a little better than that of Jamaica College. So for the rebuttal scores as well, it was found that the Belair team had the better rebuttal. So the final scores for the finals of the 2021 National Schools Debate, the scores are Jamaica College, 1,021 points, and Belair High, 1,092 points. So the winner of the 2021 National Tourism Debate is Belair High. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Attorney at Law or Chief Judge Stacey Ann Young. We will invite Mr. Oral Heaven, First Vice President in the Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce, to give us a vote of thanks. Mr. Heaven, are we ready?
Ms. Michelle Tolo, Executive Director of the National Tourism Debate. Congrats on the successful staging of another educational event from which many have benefited in so many ways. I greatly appreciate this. Your efforts, your work in leading this is evident. Mr. Conrad Robinson, we thank you for your worshipful prayer that placed us in the right frame of mind for this final. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is a national tourism debate. So we indeed needed to hear from our tourism partners. Thanks to Mrs. Nadine Spence, who brought greetings from the JHTA Montego Bay chapter. Thank you, Nadine. We received confirmation on the importance of this event to the tourism sector from the remarks of the Honorable Edmund Bartlett, our Minister of Tourism. Thank you, Minister, for taking the time to share in this educational and developmental program, highlighting the significance of this debate competition to our young minds, tourism, and of course, how important this is to our country, our island, Jamaica. Special thanks to all our judges, Chief Judge Stacey M. Young, whom I have worked with for a few of the matches as a guest judge. Dr. Kerry Wallace, thank you, my friend, for dedicating your time to this event, and Carrie-Ann Quilla-Castellet. You judges had the toughest job in the house today, but you delivered. Thank you. The schools, wow, what a match. Congrats, and thank you to the coaches and the students who debated. It was a very informative and entertaining and educational match. Thank you for your contribution and all the best in your studies, students. Well done. And big up and congrats to the winners, Belair. You will put on a great show. This debate competition is important, and it could not have been possible without sponsors. Thanks to all the sponsors, and we look forward to your support for the next competition. The sponsors: the Tourism Enhancement Fund, Deja All-Inclusive Resort, the Jamaica Hotel and Tourist Association, ProSight Optical, Royalton Luxury Resort, Choco Caribbean, Intelligent Limited, Tony Ward's Auto, and Camco Hotel and Restaurant Supplies. Thank you all, and look forward to a partnership for next year. Ladies and gentlemen, our viewers in the virtual space, Zoom and on YouTube, and to our friends from Barbados, thank you for sharing in this final match of the National Tourism Debate Competition. Thank you very much. Over to you, Madam Executive.
Thank you so much, Mr. Heaven, for bringing us the vote of thanks this afternoon. I'd like to thank both our judges again for taking the time out of their very, very busy schedule to assist us. The champions will now move forward to compete with the Bahamas, Barbados, St. Lucia, and we have, I think, the Cayman Islands who will be joining us for the regional competition. They will also be receiving their official tourism debate jersey, right? So we want to move on down to Mandeville and congratulate Belair High in person. Job well done, Janice Chamber-Allen, Coach Janice Chamber-Allen. And once again, Jamaica College, you're in second place, but you know, next year you can come and you can try again. So congratulations to Shireen Bennett, Coach Bennett there at Jamaica College. I know the Old Boys Association is a big supporter of this competition, and they're there in Florida watching us on the YouTube live stream. I'm your host, Michelle Tulloh, production team, Danielle Dehaney, Jamie Drummond, who stuck with us and worked it right through from October 2021 until today. Thank you again, participating audience. Stay safe and see you soon.